some of the basic ideas come from my life experience, obviously. But I also think that my life experience is not so special. So I think these things could or can happen to anyone. So in that sense, yes, I use myself. But then again, it's just the starting point. And as soon as I put something on the canvas, and then it's somehow, I get like this distance from it, and then it becomes a work, and then it becomes somehow of a collaboration. And then hopefully it can become something wider and bigger than me and my small life. My name is Kinga Bartis. I'm a visual artist and I live and work in Copenhagen. Mostly I work with painting and drawing and some sculptures. I am from Transylvania, from Romania, and I live here in Copenhagen for like 15 years now, or 16. My work is very much about trying to kind of think myself outside of the boundaries of like the constructed binaries and categories that we are living in. I try to do that through painting, like mostly big scale paintings, because I think it's very important and super exciting to go up life size and see what happens. Just starting from an idea and then like transforming it into painting. I like to work with charcoal because it's a very generous and open medium. It's up till the end, you can always change it. And it is also very open to changes. So if I change my mind from one day to another, it can still be changed. It doesn't dry whatsoever. It only dries if I want to. So it's super easy to work with, I think. And then it functions also both ways, like making super small, fine details, but then you can also make big, spacious nuances and landscapes super fast. Most of my ideas and inspiration comes from the body and the bodily experience and how the body is in the world. So usually the body defines the composition of the works. And then I like to find the landscape around the body, and then the conditions and like the connections between the landscape and the body, but also the landscape in the body. It's a bit of both, of like macro and micro scales. I mean, I am very eager in that sense that if I have an idea, I really would like to see it as soon as possible. And then it could also happen that I work too fast, and then maybe it's becoming a bit of a superficial work, like material-wise. But then this is why I like this specific charcoal and this specific canvas, because then they somehow say, hey, slow down. So it's nice to have this surface in that sense that can stop me somehow. Because I also think it's much better to work a bit slower. And then, not to rush too much. I also sometimes I sit down, kind of often I sit down just to see the work, because I'm so much in one specific area that it's also very necessary to slow down and then see it from the outside. And then I can come back again, if I want. The starting point was that I wanted to make a big scale work of a funeral, and then I wanted to use the composition and the perspective to make it make it into an inclusive work. So if when you are starting in front, that you kind of feel that you are a part of it. So that's why the composition is a bit trying with the perspective. But again, I didn't really want to be super precise in that sense, and I don't want to make like the perfect perspective. So yeah, I went to Oslo and I saw the Munch Museum, and then I realized how much he was playing with perspective. And this is actually, that's why I kind of try to make this work in this kind of perspective, because his perspectives are so much, it's like, it's a still from a movie. And sometimes there is this person in the middle and then the background, and then the perspective is like super wide, but there is always this focus point. So in that sense, Munch was, now at least, in this case, the inspiration was how he was working with the perspective. Most of our, like, these inner sorrows and inner problems come from the outside. The outside is just like some kind of choir, like a mess of voices that just like coming towards us, and then we make another extra layer of drama. So that's why the funeral became also this kind of mess of people, which I also kind of imagine as it was like a choir of voices. But then again, it's very important also to remember that I am also part of, or we are also part of the choir. It's not that just like, it's not separated in that sense. So I imagine them also as a choir with some voices having influences on us. And I think it's important to give shape to this choir, because then somehow it helps me at least to externalize it. Yeah, I mean, life anxiety, it is a basic life condition, I guess. It's for the modern human. But I think that's why it's also very important to talk about it and find some kind of language, what it means. Not to uniformalize it or like make it, or like find a definition, but I also think it's nice to, make a show about it, because I think it could maybe help us somehow connect. Also, because life anxiety, I think it's also so much about like grief, abandonment, being left alone, being lonely, or being rejected, death, also just the situation that we are all going to die. So it is very tough. So that's what it means to me, and that was also the starting point for the work that I'm showing. And then I thought it's just going to be somehow a very universal work for me, or like I couldn't really figure it out if it's going to like show some kind of direction. I was hoping that I could like find the depth, because all these words, they are just like, they also, even though we don't talk about them, we know what it means, and it's also super frightening, so we are not really talking about them or like trying to repress it. But then throughout the work or throughout the process, some nuances appeared, and that was very nice to me. When I was studying social science, we were always talking about the human as if we were looking downwards. We were up somehow and like just observing how the humans are. And then I found also That was very weird, because somehow I felt that we didn't really talk about us. It was, yeah, very scientific and had no connection to real life. So that was also a bit off. And now I feel doing this, what I'm doing, making art, I think it's much more about being in contact with the real experience somehow. It gives perspective, but then again, art is always has the main power, I guess.